I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. So, by the way, today, please stay tuned to all of our socials. Make sure you sign up at blackpowermedia.org and elsewhere for all the ways to support the channel and more. I'm going to continue to encourage us to consider at least those who are YouTube members to move that membership to Patreon, so we can get our Mbappe on and punish Google for their mistreatment of us. And not your subscription. Stay subscribed. You need to keep the subscribers up and get more there. In fact, you can encourage people to subscribe to the channel now, even during this ban, this little strike. And we have content there too. You can still watch the old content. But I think if in our taking our little Mbappe stance, I think if we get more people to move their financial support, those who are already financially supporting or those considering to financially support this platform, that they do it through our Patreon at blackpowermedia.org, and make sure that we can sustain ourselves and build up other audiences and other platforms without, and maybe punish Google a little bit, take some of the revenue that they take from us. Anyway, just a thought. But somewhat related to that is this next issue I wanted to bring up. A story I came across a couple weeks ago that was an extension of something I was reading at the Propaganda in Focus website, which is an offshoot of the Organization of Propaganda Studies, which I am now have been a member of part of the last couple of years. But I saw this again. I don't pretend that we all are on the same page politically, but I did see this. But a lot of the issues are overlapping and at least of relevance to much of the work that all of us are involved in. But in a related story, I was, clicked and, followed some of the footnotes in the story I was reading about censorship over there, and came across this story here in Tablet Magazine, Slaying the Censorship Leviathan. A court case exposes the government-led information war to censor what Americans think, by Aaron Kheriaty, from June of this year. So again, I'm not claiming solidarity with the overall political stance of any of this, but I think what they bring to light here is at least of some interest to the work many of us are involved in at this platform. So I wanted to bring the story here, and it's fascinating. It starts off here. 1 year ago, I joined the states of Missouri and Louisiana and several other co-plaintiffs to file a suit in federal court challenging what journalist Michael Schellenberger has called the censorship industrial complex. While much of the press cooperated with the state censorship efforts and has ignored our court battle, we expect that it will ultimately go to the Supreme Court, setting up Missouri v. Biden to be the most important free speech case of our generation and arguably of the past 50 years. Prior government censorship cases typically involve a state actor unconstitutionally meddling with one publisher, one author, or one or two books, a single article. But as we intend to prove in court, the federal government has censored hundreds of thousands of Americans, violating the law on tens of millions of occasions in the last several years. Documents we have reviewed on discovery demonstrate that government censorship was far more wide-ranging than previously known, from election integrity and the Hunter Biden laptop story to gender ideology, abortion, monetary policy, the U.S. banking system, the war in Ukraine, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and more. Now, this is where I admit I'm a little confused about where Matt Taibbi is in all of this, but so I'm not entirely, again, I'm not co-signing the overall point or the underlying point here. The overall point maybe, but for instance, that the author here talks about Matt Taibbi and others doing a lot to break through the censorship, when it read to me initially like he was sort of doing the bidding of Elon Musk. But at least some of what this article argues has come out and react in as a result of some of the work that Taibbi and this guy Jacob Siegel have done to document the anatomy of the censorship leviathan, as they say here, is that censorship is now a highly developed industry, complete with career training institutions in higher education like Stanford's Internet Observatory or the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public, full-time job opportunities in industry and government, from Virality Project to the Election Integrity Partnership to any number of federal agencies engaged in censorship. The insider jargon and euphemisms like disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation, which must be debunked and pre-bunked to render the distasteful work of censorship more palatable to industry insiders. For example, our documents demonstrate how a relatively unknown agency within the Department of Homeland Security became the central clearinghouse of government-run information control on Orwellian Ministry of Truth. My fellow citizens, meet the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, better known as CISA, a government acronym with the same word in it twice, in case you wondered about its mission. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. And that they're interested in protecting our cognitive infrastructure from various threats. Cognitive infrastructure is the actual phrase used by current CISA head Jen Easterly, who formerly worked at Tailored Access Operations, a top secret cyber warfare unit at the National Security Agency. It refers to thoughts inside our head. So a former NSA operative is running the government's Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, focused on protecting our cognitive infrastructure. Wow. A summary of what this author thinks is an issue here is said here by John Sauer in the introduction to our brief for the injunction, where it writes, suppose that the Trump White House, backed by Republicans controlling both houses of Congress, publicly demanded that all libraries in the United States burn books criticizing the president, and the president made statements implying that the libraries would face ruinous legal consequences if they did not comply, while senior White House officials privately badgered the libraries for details and lists and reports of such books that they had burned, and the libraries, after months of such pressure, complied with those demands, burned the books. Suppose that after 4 years of pressure from senior congressional staffers and secret meetings threatening the libraries with adverse legislation if they did not cooperate, the FBI started sending all libraries in the United States detailed lists of the books the FBI wanted to burn, requesting that the libraries report back to the FBI by identifying the books they burned, and the libraries complied by burning about half those books. Suppose that a federal national security agency teamed up with private research institutions backed by enormous resources and federal funding to establish a mass surveillance and mass censorship program that uses sophisticated techniques to review hundreds of millions of American citizens' electronic communications in real time and works closely with tech platforms to covertly censor millions of them. The first two hypotheticals are directly analogous to the facts of this case. The third, meanwhile, is not hypothetical at all. It is a description of the Election Integrity Partnership and Virality Project. The censorship activities of the nation's largest law enforcement agency, which it terms information warfare, have turned the FBI, in the words of whistleblower Steve Friend, into an intelligence agency with law enforcement powers. But there is no information warfare exception to the constitutional right of free speech. Which other federal agencies are involved in censorship? Besides the ones you might suspect, the DOJ, the NIH, the CDC, Surgeon General, and the State Department, our case has also uncovered censorship activities by the Department of Treasury. Don't criticize the Fed's monetary policies. And yes, my friends, even the Census Bureau, don't ask. Anyway, so again, when these all go out, I'll make sure that the links to these articles are there so you can see them more for yourself. But exactly my question. So remember at the end of the Freedom Archives documentary, COINTELPRO 101, which I still encourage people use and watch routinely, they make the point that everything that had been previously illegal during the counterintelligence program no longer needed the coverage of a counterintelligence program because it's all legal. The Patriot Act and subsequent other decisions, not requiring habeas corpus defense and all this other kind of stuff. All of this makes all that the counterintelligence program had been doing makes it perfectly legal, including Obama's National Defense Authorization Act, where forgot what year, where he allowed for propaganda to be targeted towards American citizens legally for the first time. So the document that I'm talking about, the article is from Tablet Magazine, and I'll pull it back up here again quickly so you can see it. It is talking about CISA. So Slaying the Censorship Leviathan is the name. And it's talking about CISA, which is the where did they break it down again? Because it says the name, it says the thing twice in the name. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, that is housed within the Department of Homeland Security and is headed up by Jen Easterly, who has formerly worked at Tailored Access Operations, a top secret cyber warfare unit at the National Security Agency, and refers to thoughts inside our head. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. It's yeah. So, yay. Anyway, perfect way to segue into let's talk about Barbie.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
Now, when I say talk about Barbie, I have not seen the film. Don't really have any interest in the film, but I am interested in some of what's being said about the film. So going over here to Advertising Age, I thought this story was a little interesting. Why Barbie represents a new era in movie marketing and how the brand lured new fans. So it is apparently doing very well. Let's see. Specifically, according to Rotten Tomatoes, let's see, what are the numbers here? It's the #1 film of the week. After tracking services and lowball expectations from its own studio, put out $60 million as a potential winner this weekend. Barbie racked up $155 million through its opening weekend and another $182 million internationally. So it's doing quite well. Whoops. Now, how did they do that? According to Advertising Age, Barbara Millicent Roberts has long been posed as the image of perfection, the woman who can do and be it all. It's an image that, while meant to be aspirational for future generations of nurses, CEOs, and flight attendants, has also gotten the 64-year-old Barbie into trouble with younger generations for encapsulating societal pressures and body expectations for young women. That's why the brand's astounding pivot back to the cultural zeitgeist alongside its all-too-aware live-action film is all the more impressive. TikTok is saturated by Barbie core. Early trailers and leaked images have fed the social media meme machine for nearly a year, and practically every marketer under the sun has seemingly struck a brand deal. The marketing strategy for the Barbie movie feels unprecedented due to the combined powers of Warner Brothers Picture and Mattel. And Barbie may portend a new era in brand filmmaking in which studio and brand dollars work together for outsized consumer impact, both in product sales and box office numbers. There's going to be short-term spikes for sales for emotional reasons, said Mattel. And Mattel, the opportunity to seed prolonged impact through cinematic universe. But a vast roster of partnerships in every category imaginable has made it nearly impossible for consumers to look both ways without catching a glimpse of the pink and platinum blonde. So if you felt like it's been impossible, aside from this broadcast, to avoid the Barbie core phenomenon, it is by design. Barbie Mania has already reached and had a cultural impact. Mentions of hashtag Barbie have shot up 80% on YouTube and 191% on TikTok, with over 9 billion views of the hashtag. Vistaprint reported a 46% increase in pink logos over the past 12 months, with a 117% increase in U.S. searches for cowgirl hat. Audience awareness for Barbie is 70%, according to film analytics firm The Quorum, which tracks sentiment for upcoming releases. The firm said Barbie is only the sixth film in 2 years to reach that number, which is substantially higher than the 42% awareness held by Oppenheimer, which releases on the same day. And I think it didn't do the Barbie numbers. How could it? Modern audiences seem to crave brands willing to take a farcical look at themselves, even edging into irrelevance. It's why the trailer of the clip Barbie, played by Margot Robbie, saying, "Do you guys ever think about dying?" while decked out in sequins and dancing in such shareable clip, or why one might raise an eyebrow at Will Ferrell, who plays Mattel CEO in Barbie, chasing the personified doll through a corporate office modeled like a villainous lair. Yeah, do you guys ever think about dying? I don't know, anyway. Barbie was not okay not so long ago, and through the brand and filmmakers entertaining the fuck out of us and just putting themselves on the line with massive investment on every level, emotional, financial, they've just won us back, said Mark DiMassimo, founder and creative chief at agency Digo, which was not involved with the movie. In the age of social media, brands are too fearful of what could come, said Landor and Fitch's Mancini. A lot of brands and companies try to be everything to everyone, and what Barbie has done so beautifully is know who they're talking to. The Barbie movie is a marked step in speaking to adults, a pivot that Lisa McKnight, executive VP and global head of Barbie and Dolls and Mattel, previously told Ad Age has been in the works over the past decade. While targeting children to inspire a case of the gimmies is an obvious choice, McKnight described the necessity of instilling Barbie's message of empowerment and inclusivity, as well as a sprinkle of nostalgia with parents as well. So the woke emporium is back here for the adults to see in the film. So I'm sure. So what is she going to have, a black friend or a gay friend, or is Ken going to be gay? I don't know. McKnight told Ad Age that over 100 brand partnerships had been struck to market the Barbie movie. Furniture maker Joybird, you can get a $4,000 pink sofa. Even, man, me and Diallo got to watch out. Even Microsoft's Xbox has gotten involved because they want to encourage women to get into STEM and gaming, tech, careers in gaming. This is the Barbie Forza racing game, I guess, upgrade or whatever. You get careers in STEM. Anyway, so I just thought that was fascinating. I always think it's interesting to read these advertising trade rags and see. One is, I think it's interesting. It's always, to me, interesting as a reminder of how many jobs and how many resources and emphasis is put on marketing and making something successful. And even in the context of the previous story on censorship, on the one hand, there's all this top-down governmental state-sponsored censoring of our digital media environment. And on the other end is this, or on another end is this, because I think it's circular, so it's not just two ends, it's a full encasing. So from another end, we're getting millions and billions of dollars actually spent on targeting us through marketing and manipulation and using films connected, as this story said, to over 100 brands to market the film. So one way to assure its success is to tap into the nostalgia of the brand of Barbie, to add on the new woke imperium of diversity and inclusion with some self-deprecating farcical reference in the film, and it guarantees success, or it encourages, induces, creates what from their perspective is success. And when you have the heavy level of censorship on one end and the heavy level of promotion on another, it makes it very difficult for those of us in these spaces to do the work that we need to do, because our messages, it's difficult for them to reverberate, which is why, again, I want to keep this thought of let's move our support from YouTube to Patreon, and give ourselves some more options here, as folks still keep sending me messages even this morning of, hey, are you all not on YouTube? Haven't been seeing your broadcast. Well, we're broadcasting. It's to other outlets, other platforms, and for you to really best understand and be kept up with that, you got to make sure you have all of our socials followed. You're following the website as much as you are YouTube, et cetera. You have to, there will require that one step more of involvement, of active involvement, to keep up with BPM. We're not going to be that much encouraged to do so. So anyway, all right, let's wrap it up with this. I want to come back to this. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot one more thing with this Barbie thing. Speaking of how it's being marketed, just because we don't want to leave this folks out. Introducing our new Dream Patrol car. Remember, Barbies, if you go to a party, be sure to drink responsibly. So the city of Sherwood, I don't know exactly where that is, but you get a pink police car. So everybody's getting in on the marketing of Barbie. That's just great. That's classic. Anyway, yeah, let's take a quick break and come back with this Dan Snyder story that I think I've rushed through too much the other day on the remix, but I want to give it its due. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, quick break, back in the
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Woo! Let's go! I'm gonna tell you, oh my god, I can't, man. Oh my goodness, it feels great. It feels great, man. Let's go! Let's go! Thank you! Man, it feels good. It feels good, y'all. Washington Nation.
This is exactly how I feel. I love this dude, Big Simple.
Stand up, baby. Because we back, baby. We back. Let's get it.
And it's crazy. This is exactly how my emotions were.
Dan Snyder, get out of town. Get out of D.C. and stay out of D.C. Let's get it. Woo! Let's go.
I love it. I love it. Again, I'm not a fan anymore. Don't support the team. Don't support the sport. Don't watch. Don't follow it. Don't know the latest. And I'm a little sad to admit that I don't care. I and that I don't think I could go back. I'm a little sad about that. My youth, but from my earliest memory as a child is supporting that franchise. But Dan Snyder, over his 20-year reign, almost as much as everything else with the league and the sport and the world itself, destroyed my fandom, ruined it, ruined it. We're talking about no meaningful wins, horrible deals, horrible management, ridiculous signings at ridiculous costs, inferior facilities, inferior health staffs, horrible treatment of cheerleaders and women on staff. Then you come to find out we're talking about price gouging, lying about the wait list for season tickets. Then come to find out that it's even way worse than that. And what I really love about this story is that it shows the full spectrum dominance, the full spectrum exploitation, and the complete and total interrelationship of sport, of again, the political economy of sport, of excuse me, of media, of journalism. There's so much going on here that I did want to again take a few minutes to come back to this story. And then, you have people like Big Simple who have never seen the team win. Is this the same story? Is this the right one? Man, I've been reading so many of them. Yeah, this is the right one. This is the same one. I think they changed the headline. Oh, no, there it is. He was free and clear how a leak of John Gruden's email led to the fall of the Commanders owner Dan Snyder. People like Big Simple have never seen the team win. Again, I was spoiled in that. So that's Roger Goodell. I'm actually, let me, just so we're clear on all the names. This actually, just the video without the sound will be helpful. That's Dan Snyder, the former owner. All right. So having a quick look at these faces will be helpful. That's the team might be going through another name change too. I just saw another story that they might get another name. So this is the guy he made his money off of, and this is Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the league, who is making $40 million a year to do nothing. This is the owner. This is Dan Snyder, who made his money off of spam. Basically, spam emails. John Gruden, the former NFL sports commentator and coach of the Raiders, had a beef there with Roger Goodell that we'll cover here in just a moment. But I just wanted to, and then there's DeMaurice Smith, or there's Jay-Z. He factors into this as well. There's DeMaurice Smith, the former head of the NFLPA, and his race, his blackness plays a role in this as well. And that's the dilapidated stadium. the declining stadium. So I mean, this is so Mark Davis is the owner of the Raiders, who just moved the team to Las Vegas. And again, I can't emphasize enough the reason people like Big Simple are so excited. They've never seen the team win. My generation was spoiled, having seen many Super Bowl victories, many championship games, many meaningful winning seasons and games, and national television appearances, all the kind of good stuff that the fans of any team would want. This younger owner, Dan Snyder, comes in, a billionaire, and at the time he was only in his mid-40s, I think. He was known to be a fan of the team. All this excitement, he was going to bring everything up to date, victory, all blah, 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 all these victories and new stadiums and all this stuff he was promising. It was just a lot. None of it came to pass. The team has been terrible ever since. He refused to change the name. He wanted to defend the racist name up until the very end. He supported all these horrific policies and so on and so on. Okay. But as he hopped on a call with Roger Goodell, Las Vegas Raiders owner Mark Davis had no plans to fire his head coach, who at the time was John Gruden. It was afternoon on Friday, October 8th, 2021. A few hours earlier, the Wall Street Journal had published a blockbuster story about an email Raiders coach John Gruden had sent 10 years earlier when he worked as a color analyst for ESPN's Monday Night Football. Gruden, in an exchange with Washington's general manager Bruce Allen, had called NFLPA executive director DeMaurice Smith Dumb Morris and described him using a racial trope, the N-word to be specific. To most observers, Gruden's Gruden's dismissal seemed, no, wait, was it the N-word or did he say something else? I wish they would have just reprinted it here. But anyway, Gruden's dismissal seemed like a matter of when, not if. But Davis hoped to, at the very least, slow down the hurricane from the center of the storm. Now, again, it's important to remember that Bruce Allen, or for you all to know, Bruce Allen, when he was brought into the team, I think in 2009, this was after years of fans and journalists saying to Dan Snyder, you're running the team horribly. You don't know how to hire coaches. You don't know how to hire trainers. You don't know how to pick players. You don't know how to scout teams and players. You've hired this guy, Vinny Serrato, to run your team, and he's terrible. He doesn't know how to, he doesn't deserve the job. He's not qualified. He doesn't know what he's doing. You got to get somebody else in here. So in comes Bruce Allen, who had this good reputation with the Buccaneers and within football, the son of George Allen, the former coach of the Washington football team, brother to the other Allen, who was the politician in Virginia, who was famous for his racial epithet at the Indian Reporter years ago. Remember Macaca? So he brings in this racist Virginian crew, but Bruce Allen is supposed to be legitimizing and someone who's going to help organize the finances and make it a professional running team. I shouldn't be in the chat, but EV Flow, if I'm reading this correctly, to reduce what I'm doing here to a discussion of ball chasing and ownership, and saying we should move on, you're missing the point of this platform, of my show and what I do, and feel free to move on yourself. If you feel like we need to move on and this isn't appropriate and this analysis of what's happening is inappropriate, you can move on. You move on. Anyway, or stick around and learn something. So Bruce Allen is brought in, and so the fact that he would have been engaged in this racist exchange via email is perfectly logical and in step with what his family seems to have been about, and what my biased, view of him would suggest. According to sources familiar with his thinking, Davis found the story's timing suspicious. Why were the emails coming out now? Who had leaked them and who had the most to gain? Again, I think it's perfectly logical that among his first responses is not the views, which included other racisms and anti-womanisms and anti-NFL commissionerisms, but it's not the concern isn't the worldview and the content of these emails of his coach. It is, why are they being leaked now? To be fair to the owner, it is somewhat fair for him to at least raise this just to balance my bias, because the email was written at a time when Gruden was not the coach of the Raiders, was not working for Mark Davis, and unaffiliated with Davis. So why would then, from his point of view, his coach his team be getting dragged at this time? But again, the issue is not the worldview; it's the revealing of the worldview and the timing of the revelation. Even though league officials in New York and a few team owners had known about the Gruden emails for months, as part of the investigation into Commanders owner Dan Snyder and the toxic workplace culture inside his franchise, Davis had learned of them only a day before the Journalist's exclusive, when Raiders president Dan Vettrell told him, "We've got a problem." So the emails from John Gruden, at the time the coach of the Raiders, but at the time of the emails 10 years earlier, the NFL analyst for ESPN, they're revealed as part of an investigation into Dan Snyder.
Message.
Snyder was under investigation because for quite some time, stories had been coming out about, again, the mistreatment of cheerleaders, the mistreatment of faculty, of staff, and the dilapidating stadium, of the treatment of star players in their health, like Trent Williams or RG3, the changing of the name, the racist slur, his defense of it. All of this was part of why he was being investigated. The toxic work environment that he had generated. That is Dan Snyder's. On Monday, October 11th, the New York Times of 2021, that is. Right? We're still in 2021, yeah. The New York Times publishes more of these emails in which Gruden can be seen calling Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, clueless and anti-football. Gruden would soon file a lawsuit against the NFL and Goodell that accused the commissioner of directly leaking his emails to harm his reputation and to force him out, something league officials have repeatedly denied. What angered Davis more than anything, that is what angered Gruden's then boss with the Raiders, the owner of the Raiders, more than anything, he later said, was being surprised by the emails months after Goodell, Pash, and other owners, including Snyder, knew about them. Jeff Pash is the NFL's general counsel. So the owner of the Raiders, Mark Davis, is saying that Pash and Goodell, the head of the NFL, knew about all of this for a long time and then directly leaked them at what was for Davis an unfortunate time. What angered Davis more than anything was later, he said, was being surprised by the emails that Goodell, Pash, and others knew about, including Snyder. It seemed to Davis as if he and the Raiders were collateral damage in what he saw as Goodell's years-long effort to protect Dan Snyder of all owners at all costs. F the NFL, Davis later told Gruden, and F Dan Snyder. Why did Goodell want to protect Dan Snyder? I'm not entirely sure, other than Snyder having, again, the Washington football team being an enormous revenue generator, despite all of the losing and uselessness, and because of what Snyder would later claim was information he had on everyone. Now, here's where I think it also gets another level of interesting, and why I think it is of value beyond my personal hatred of this man and the franchise and now the sport and the league, et cetera, and so forth. But in terms of our general environment, media, intellectual, cognitive, et cetera, what did the CISA people call it? Cognitive infrastructure that those who rule want to protect are cognitive infrastructure. This cognitive infrastructure they've created includes professional sports. It includes the management of behavior and politics through offering sports as an avenue for overcoming inequality. It includes what is called entertainment popularly, but I think is better understood as some form of psychological warfare, given its context. It involves advertising. Again, 100 different companies involved in promoting the Barbie film. However many other companies involved in promoting the NFL, including the Pentagon. Remember the anthems and the flyovers. All of that is post 9/11, relatively new propaganda for the Pentagon to promote not only the state and the military, but to encourage recruitment to, obviously, a lot of people who are watching these games who are themselves in desperate economic conditions, who need another outlet for themselves that the military can provide. So all of this is part of the planned cognitive infrastructure. Post Colin Kaepernick, post some popular discord and hostility, one of the responses of the NFL was to bring in one of its favored propagandists, and that is Jay-Z and his Rock Nation, where they hired Desiree Perez with a $25 million contract to help the NFL on social justice issues. So in terms of the cognitive infrastructure, there is part of the connection. We're going to use popular entertainment, Super Bowl halftime shows, the presence of Jay-Z to say things like we're moving past taking a knee in protest. We're moving into ownership boxes. This is how you address historical wrongs and racism. You hire black celebrities and black business people to big contracts to help clean up the image. Another specific connection to this case is that the law firm Reed Smith, that is hired by Snyder, is also hired by Rock Nation, Jay-Z, et cetera, and others, because they're known as top law firm in defending clients in big cases and doing all kinds of scandalous things to win cases, like dusting off the tactics of leaking emails and other stories to sabotage opponents' cases. So Snyder, in an operation run by his New York law firm Reed Smith, and with the help of Desiree Perez, the CEO of Rock Nation, which has a $25 million contract to help the NFL on social justice issues, a Reed Smith lawyer told one source before and after the leaks about the firm's involvement in Perez's alleged role, which the source did not define. Lawyers with direct knowledge of Reed Smith operations and Perez's dual role as an influential NFL consultant and a Snyder confidant told ESPN the group dusted off tactics it had used in Alex Rodriguez's lawsuit against the Major League Baseball years ago. That is, leaking emails, leaking stories, etc. So Snyder is cool with Desiree Perez. Desiree Perez works for Jay-Z's Rock Nation, which was hired by the NFL to promote social justice issues as part of a defense against backlash coming from Kaepernick's protests and a way to clean its own image and its brand and so on and so on. Desiree Perez, of course, another rabbit hole that I went down that you know, at your own risk, is herself considered by many to be a snitch, having to get herself out of a drug charge years ago, turned over the names of many people in these big cartels, got people all kinds of time. She went on to be free and have a career with Jay-Z, who, including some of his own former colleagues, I think did some time as a backlash of her snitching. So, and then it was thought that it's thought to this day by many artists that anyone affiliated with Rock Nation is basically working for a snitch outfit. Now, Snyder, apparently, who was serving a punishment after a league investigation that exposed the toxic workplace culture at the team, hoped the emails would deflect blame for workplace issues to Allen while currying favor with Goodell by giving the commissioner a chance to eliminate Gruden, a longtime antagonist. This is the stuff I admit to finding fascinating, and it's perfect. So Snyder hires Allen out of that racist Allen, Virginia family to clean the image of his football team, then uses Allen as a scapegoat when he wants to get rid of him for having not been able to help the team both get a new stadium in Virginia or win any games. He wants to use Allen to curry favor with Goodell so that Goodell will stop the investigation of Snyder by turning over to Goodell, Gruden, Allen, etc., and so forth. And that's why I love that they were called a circular firing squad, and I hope they all win. No matter how the leaks were engineered, multiple sources draw a direct line from emails that trickled out over a few days in October 2021 to Snyder's crash and his imminent $6.5 billion sale of the Commanders. So that's the other thing. He's still walking away with billions of dollars in profit for having won nothing, done nothing, brought nothing but toxicity and loss to this region, to this team, to the fan base, to the people that work there, etc. Within days of the leaks, a congressional committee launched a wide-ranging investigation of the Commanders in the NFL that forced Goodell, Allen, and Snyder to testify under oath. The congressional inquiry would lead to a federal criminal investigation into alleged financial misconduct by Snyder and the team. As pressure mounted, Snyder bragged to his associates that he had collected dirt on his fellow owners and Goodell that could blow up the league. Unfazed, owners finally all but forced Snyder to sell his beloved franchise. He was free and clear that October. He had to just wait out his suspension and let everything blow over. A source close to Snyder said a major miscalculation. Without the leaks, he might just have survived. And again, this is his wife, and this is him doing in the world of Jews what many in the black world feel of black celebrities. He went and got his shiksa, blonde, blue-eyed wife, his Gentile wife, his trophy Tanya. As soon as his billions brought him out of disrepute and that backwards Jewry that he would so desperately want to get himself away from, I'm sure. Yeah, he had the black. So when Snyder's lawyers, famed defense attorney Joe Tacopina, assisted by Reed Smith partners Siev and James McCarroll, began to show a series of slides, those in the room were stunned, according to sources. What was presented was not a defense against any of Wilkinson's findings made against Snyder. It was this is what he showed up with when they had a meeting with the league, when Snyder had a meeting with the league. So he didn't have a defense of what the league found on him, But what he presented was a series of screenshots of potentially embarrassing emails and texts from several top league executives, including Goodell's top lieutenant, Pash. The rationale, according to the source, was firsthand knowledge, was to argue the hypocrisy of league officials judging Snyder. The tactics were so ruthless that some attorneys felt uncomfortable. Although none of the content was sexist, anti-gay, or graphic, the signal was clear. If Goodell didn't do what Snyder wanted in terms of handling the Wilkinson report and punishment, these emails and texts would be leaked. It became known as the blackmail PowerPoint. He tried to dictate his punishment. That failed. That is Snyder. And then they brought in Jay-Z and his team. Look how happy they are. Long before any leaked emails, the NFL enlisted Jay-Z's entertainment company, Roc Nation, to help solve the problem, a big problem. The league in 2018 remained on defense from the fallout of then-President Donald Trump targeting the NFL over former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick and a small group of players kneeling in protest during the national anthem. New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, among others, thought the league needed outside help. Kraft consulted Jay-Z, who had called out the NFL after ESPN reported that then Texans owner Bob McNair had said of the players in closed-door meeting, "We can't have the inmates running the prison." So Jay-Z enacting again, this is why you should sign up for Patreon and check out the Hate Awards, but this is why we gave out we give out awards to certain folks, that certain folks get awards in certain places. Because Jay-Z was just following the Jesse Jackson blueprint, the Ben Crump, Al Sharpton blueprint. Call out a problem, call out racism, and then be first in line to get rewarded symbolically, rewarded materially for the symbolic coverage and protection you provide. So instead of assuring Kaepernick and others got hired and got jobs and properly paid, and wealth that the NFL creates redistributed properly, and maybe some of the communities that produce all these players getting healed themselves, Jay-Z just says, "Hey, I think we've moved past kneeling," and gets a $25 million contract for his Roc Nation to provide Super Bowl halftime shows. The affiliation with Jay-Z has helped the NFL improve its image on race with fans, according to an executive outside the NFL with knowledge of the league's internal data. The partnership also gave Perez, the Roc Nation CEO, an open door to the league office. Perez had overcome a criminal past to build a reputation as one of entertainment's most powerful executives. In 1994, she had been arrested for conspiracy to distribute cocaine, later working as a DEA informant and serving 9 months in prison for a probation violation. She was among the dozens of convicted felons Trump pardoned a day before he left office. That's beautiful. Roc Nation employees, they talk about how the NFL saw the Roc Nation employees, taking over and being angered that the league, were angering those who sincerely wanted to help find solution to the league's social justice problem. Goodell refused to back his staff when tension arose between the league and Roc Nation in 2020, instead telling his charges to just work it out. Roc Nation owned all the leverage. The NFL couldn't afford to suffer the fallout with Jay-Z, not after the Kaepernick controversy, and not after how much it had publicized their partnership. Plus, Goodell seemed to appreciate and trust Perez, inviting her to key meetings, an action that mystified some owners and executives. The NFL became afraid of Roc, said a former NFL official, who adds that the partnership has been a mess. And there's Jay-Z and Perez. Perez became a trusted confidant of Dan and Tanya Snyder. Jason Wright, the first black team president in NFL history for Washington in 2020, hired Greg Resch, a former Roc Nation chief financial officer, to be his CFO and eventually chief operating officer. Roc Nation and Snyder are both clients of Reed Smith, a firm with a reputation for taking an aggressive approach on behalf of famous clients. Previously, Perez and Reed Smith were allegedly involved in leaking documents to reporters and putting private investigators on now MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred to help Rodriguez's lawsuit against Major League Baseball. Snyder could have retained the team if he had just kept himself, quiet and was a little more patient. But the hope, one source said, was that the leaked emails would divert attention from this situation with Snyder and give room for everybody to lay down their swords. This was a hatchet job, a gift wrapped by Snyder for Goodell to get back into Goodell's good graces on the suspension. The source was told by an attorney involved that Perez, meanwhile, saw the chance to help the commissioner. Goodell and the league wanted to off Gruden and seemed like they were tough on racism. This was a gift. So Gruden, to a certain extent, is sacrificed, but it didn't work. The Gruden email disparaging Smith in racist terms was about to be published within a few days of Goodell's review, a coincidence that was hard to miss. So Goodell was about to review everything with Snyder, and then this comes out. DeMaurice Smith has since lost his bid and has been replaced as NFL player rep. But another bomb was about to drop. So ultimately, what it comes down to is that, and this is what I find interesting about the situation, and why I'm always skeptical about how issues of competing oppressions are pitted in the public sphere. Because ultimately what happens here is that Gruden would have survived. It's argued here that Gruden would have survived the racist comments, but he was not going to survive once it came out that he had anti-gay comments. I got an email from the New York Times. Mark Davis said a story was being prepared about Gruden's anti-gay emails about Goodell. Davis told friends he had now been backed into a corner. He wasn't just the owner of the Raiders who had the defensive end Carl Nassib, the first active NFL player to come out as gay on the roster. Davis also owned the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces with lesbian players, staff, and fans. We've got a problem, Davis told Gruden, who knew it was over. He resigned, and then basically it says here he reached an undisclosed settlement with the team to get the remaining 7 years of his 10-year, $100 million contract. So he got fired, but again, he got fired in a way that I think most of us would want to be fired, with a whole bunch of money, life-changing, permanent retirement levels of money. But the point was, as this story reports it, it wasn't that the issues of racism were solvable, recoverable, survivable, but not the anti-gay emails. And that's, I admit having a problem with that. It's not that the anti-gay emails should be survivable or justifiable, but why are the racist emails or comments survivable? And I think this is, again, part of the way the woke imperium means to play various communities against one another. And of course, including the fact that there are Black LGBTQ people who are, I think, being encouraged to, quote unquote, pick a side against their own struggles, their own racial struggles, their own national struggles. And I don't think either should have to suffer either, or that either should be, but I thought that was a fascinating reality, that was the final bomb that dropped. Congress gets involved, Gruden gets fired. With that huge golden parachute. Bruce Allen gets removed in 2019 and probably got his contract. And then Snyder sells the team. But anyway, but again, for my interest is, again, admittedly, I'm happy to see Dan Snyder gone. Very happy. Big simple levels of happy. But I'm mostly fascinated by these overlapping interests and this fully encapsulating effort to manage, develop, and protect, as they put it in their own words, our cognitive infrastructure. That all of the attempts to make us see things as just entertainment, just sports, miss the political economy, miss the manipulation, miss the role all of these things play in the broader context of colonization, settler colonialism, whichever. And is not racial capitalism just another way of softening the point about settler colonialism? Anyway, anyway. But so that's what is ultimately, again, my entry point is Dan Snyder, my hate and my the Schadenfreude I'm experiencing in watching this unfold. But analytically, and I think what makes it a value for a discussion here is really the ability to bring in Jay-Z, the recognition to bring in PR specialists, the even with the Barbie story, the total encompassing full spectrum involvement of advertisers, marketers, business, the state, intelligence agencies in managing our cognitive infrastructure to limit the potential that we have to radically organize all of these issues out of existence. It's fascinating to me. The overlaps between Dan Snyder, Desiree Perez, Rock Nation, Reed Smith Law Firm, the incestuousness of it all is fascinating to me. And again, makes it impossible for me or anyone, I think, thinking at the higher levels of political analysis to see anything as just a film or just a sport or just a podcast, et cetera. These are well-funded, manicured products meant to manipulate us in a variety of ways, which is why even as I get frustrated at being banned on YouTube or stricken from YouTube, we have to recognize that the analysis is correct and that this would be part of the response. So that's why, as I start to wrap up here, you got to support BPM in as many ways as you can. Put these streams in your socials. Make sure you're following all of our various socials. Make sure you start to at least consider moving your existing YouTube membership to Patreon or becoming, out of the gate, a Patreon supporter. To help sustain us beyond these strikes and bans, and to find content where you'll find clips of today and other things that will continue to come up and be posted there, and other new specific special Patreon content.